I'm like about to throw my mic over and like flip chairs and that is madness to me. Welcome to another episode of Relationship Theory. I'm your co-host Tom Bilyeu, and I'm here with none other than my beautiful wife, Lisa Bilyeu. What is up, homegirl?
Good. You know, I was just thinking, actually,
What's
you've
up?
got nicknames for the other team members. What's my nickname for the show?
Oh, for the show. I mean, you have a nickname that I call you, but that'd be really weird to call you that
Yeah, I guess.
in the show.
What
So to
would
give you like a
You've got a few personal
secondary?
nicknames for me. Which one are you thinking?
Like, but there's one primary name for you. I don't know. I don't even
I
understand
wasn't
the
sure if
question.
you were going to say like Yinegamu or Kins.
No, Kins is your nickname for
Yeah.
Shwazy.
Yeah. So let's get to a question.
Let's do it.
Okay, this question is from Suyash Singh. Hey, I am from India. Hi, India. Oh, that was very
was dramatic. Yeah, I
that
was
was very
very impressed.
enthusiastic. I love a girl and her parents are not allowing her to marry me.
Whoa.
Should we give up on our love for the love of our parents? I love her truly and we both are happy together, but they want her to marry someone else. We took a rational approach to love in the beginning, but we fell in love with each other truly. I know you're just gonna like hit him with
I'm
it.
like about to throw my fucking mic over and like flip chairs and shit. That is madness to me. So I get it. There are cultural differences. There is no question. But at the end of the day, if you're in love with somebody, man, that's you got to go all in on that to me. Like, and to crumble to societal pressure is again total madness. So yeah, I don't do well with conformity. I don't do well with other people telling me what I should be doing. Like, if you're really in love with that person and you're prepared to make it work as a relationship and you're not just getting caught up in the red hot romance and then it's going to fade away and you're going to look like a total asshole and everyone is going to tell you I told you so. But if you can really understand what a life with somebody is and building something, but having that base of love, like, dude, I am a huge believer in love. I think love is amazing. It is one of the absolute core pillars of my life. And I mean, we got a small glimpse of how I responded when your dad was not exactly enthusiastic about us getting together, but I won't put that in this league. Your dad wasn't combative or anything like that. He was very kind and generous from word one to last. But that is like crazy town to me. So I think definitively, if you are in love with this person, it's reciprocated and you guys are prepared to build a real life together that's lasting, that knows how to ride the change in the neurochemistry that is love, that can go from the fiery red hot to like the shared life and really being partners and really building something. It does not fucking matter what other people think under any circumstance. As long as that relationship is positive. Now, we all know I'm a psycho. If somebody is emotionally abusive, absolutely not, totally off the table. That's crazy town. But if this is like one of those where you guys make each other a better version of each other and you're going to help each other grow and develop and accomplish the things that you want in life, you can't let anything stand between you, period.
Yeah, I don't know if you remember this, but when we first got together, you flew to England. So your first trip to England, we've been dating for about a month. And we were on the underground and we were talking about the next steps. And it was like, because we both felt this like just electricity that we'd never felt before. And so it was, well, you're in London now, you're here for vacation, but what's next? You know, I mean, you had a job. I didn't have a visa. I just finished college. And I remember like you saying, well, why don't you come to America? I'll get you a job working on a movie set. I've got some friends in the industry. Like, we'll figure it out. And I remember turning to you on the underground. I don't know why I remember this, but I said to you, but like, I don't know. Like, I have to speak to my dad. I don't know if he's going to let me. And to me, it was such a natural thought. Like, I don't know if he's going to let me because my whole life, my dad has been the alpha of my entire family. And anything I wanted to do, you had to get my dad to agree to. And so I was like, well, I don't know. And it just seemed so natural for me to say, well, I have to speak to my dad. And you turned around to me and you're like, why does your dad have to give you permission? And I was, 21 at the time? And I was like, what do you mean? Of course he's got to give me permission. Like, apart from the fact that I don't have a pen, you know, like I'm not working, so I'd need him to help supply the money. Right. It's my dad. Like, I just thought of him as the leader of my life, really, I guess. And when you said that, I was like you were seriously offended. Like, why do you have to ask your dad? And over time, I really realized that what you're just saying, you've got to take the leadership of your own life. And ultimately, the point of having children is to let them go and be free. And so as a child, like doing what your parents say, like I hate to say, but eventually they are going to pass away. Like I'm so sorry, like to say that, but they are. And then what happens, right? Like that's the biggest fear I have, is that I have to lead the life that I want to lead, because if I start taking external advice, if I don't believe in it, then what am I going to do if it fails? I'm going to turn around and say, yeah, but they told me so, but they told me so. But we live a life of take control over your own, your own life, like own it. If something goes wrong, if you fail, if you fall, that's on you. So if I wasn't able to really take a chance that I wanted to take because something else was holding me back, I will always look at that person and blame them. And so, yeah, with family and parents, it's like you're never going to be able to change them. Maybe you can over a long enough timeline, but what if you can't? So now literally you're holding back on your future life because other people have told you so. So for me, it was an acceptance thing. Like I was the first person in our entire family, to ever marry out of Greek Orthodox. Apart from, so my uncle on my mum's side, but that's kind of distant in regards to immediate family. Like all my brothers, my sisters, like all my cousins, I was literally the first person to marry out of being Greek Orthodox. And so you can imagine
on your dad's side,
on my dad's
right?
side, yes,
I was going to say, because your cousins were half
right. So that's what I mean on my dad's side. So all of my dad's family, no one ever married out of being Greek Orthodox. My brother, my sister, like I was the first person. So I of course got negativity, like, oh, what are you doing? He doesn't understand the culture. And so I just had to make a decision. Like, I love this man so much. And what is the worst that can happen? Right? Like I could be wrong and our marriage could fail. I could be. Okay. And at least I knew. But if I was like holding to, well, my dad told me so, my mum told me so, I shouldn't marry this person, and then God forbid something happened to my family, it's like, now what? So I think I'm okay with being wrong. I'm okay with failing. I'm okay with something going wrong because I've made that decision and not my family of not listening.
What I find really interesting is that a lot of your life is predicated around questions of what happens when that person dies. You think about that a lot. Like you think about like what happens, like even your answer to this question, like when they die then, right? Then it doesn't really matter anymore because they're not there to like echo back, or like you've talked a lot about the one thing that would really freak you out about us not having kids is if I die and then you don't have kids. That's really interesting. And I have a totally different frame of reference.
But don't think of it as like a morbid thing though.
No,
like it doesn't,
I wasn't even thinking
mind,
that. What's interesting to me though is how much your world is constructed by the people that you're around, right? So you're much more like, when you look at, part of the reason that like surgery is so crazy and is so hard to do well is because everything in the body is connected, right? Like the muscle tissue and the fat are actually intertwined. And I mean, you can see it in a steak, right? It's like all like marbled together, and it's very difficult to just extract one from the other. My life is very different than that. Like internally, like my whole thing is about what is that internal compass? Where am I, irrespective of anyone else? Nothing else matters. And that's why, like, for me, this question is so cut and dry. It wouldn't even occur to me. Like, legitimately, if my mom said something like, oh, you shouldn't do that because, whatever, like we think you should marry this person, or I think, I would be like, it's such a non sequitur. It's like, what does it even matter? Like, this isn't your life. This is my life. It, like, your reflection of the world and the way that things should be literally has no bearing on how I see things, or like I have an internal experience and I need to be consistent with that internal experience. And when you were talking, I was thinking about Vishen and his whole notion of the culturescape and bullshit rules. And then I was thinking about Yuval Noah Harari, who wrote the book Sapiens and Homo Deus. And it's like, he talks about how this is all made up. Like, once you understand this is all made up, like everything that you're in the middle of right now. And then I'm thinking about my boy, Agent Smith, and the whole David Foster Wallace, and this is water. And it's like, it's so ever present, like all these beliefs and assumptions that your family, the culture that you grew up in have handed you, that it's like you can't even see that it's made up. And like now I'm really freaking myself out because I can think, even like I'm coming from a Western perspective of the individual, right? And I think, hey,
right.
But even that is water. And it's just so like ubiquitous in my life that I don't even question it. So like from my perspective, it just makes all the sense in the world that like, okay, I have an internal experience. That internal experience is unique to me. I cannot escape it. And it's the only reason that I think individualism is the only sort of the last bastion of reality because you can't escape it. Okay, you can't escape the voice in your head. So if your parents convince you to marry somebody else, but inside you're still pining for that other person, you can't escape that. If you make a mistake listening to somebody else and that voice is just beating you up because you knew, right? Like you knew you were in love with that person and yet you went with it and you can't escape that. That is the nature of the human animal. You have a voice in your head. It is commentating on everything. It is secreting chemicals. You are experiencing something. And that's why, to me, that needs to be the compass. And so what people have to deal with is like uncertainty. That's what fucks people up. They don't know what they want. That's the problem.
I don't know if I agree though, because culture is, I was brought up in a Greek Orthodox family, and so we had a lot of cultural things, and it's meaningful to me. And so even if it's made up, it gives me a certain chemical reaction. And so I legitimately feel that chemical reaction when the whole family's together and my dad's doing a barbecue, or it's Easter and we've gone to church in the morning. It's like going to church for my dad to see him happy. Like I'm getting that chemical rush. So even if it's made up, I still get a pleasure from it. And so really it's, at least for me, going back to the death thing, because I never thought of it like that. That's actually very powerful. It's really because I want to please, right? So it's like I want to please my dad. I want to make him happy. I want to make him proud. I want to please my mom. I want to make her happy. I want to make her proud. But if I use that as my driving force, then I'm dust, right? Because eventually they will be gone. And then what? So it's almost a... thinking of it like that allows me to really go deep inside and say, no, Lisa, what do you actually want? And what do you actually want to do? Because now you're basing decisions off what's internal versus what is momentary pleasure that I'm giving my parents. So, and then ultimately, I think going back to this question is, the worst comes to the worst and they say they're going to disown you, I would have to say, okay, like disown me, because I'm not doing something spiteful to somebody. It's just I'm following my heart. And I think you need to become okay with that, because especially the woman, like if she's not okay with being disowned by her family, that could really cause friction between her and the person.
Fascinating insight. That's why this is so complicated. Because the way that each person like reads the other people and like wanting to make them happy. And I don't know like what happened to me, but let me tell you right now, the craziest thing, the most counterproductive thing you could ever say to me would be, I'm going to disown you.
Why?
Because are you out of your fucking mind? Like immediately, okay. Like that's so crazy to me to try to leverage your presence in somebody's life to get them to do what you want. Like I would never think to present that to somebody. Like I would never say, well, if you do that, then this is over or whatever. Like that's crazy town. Like to not try to.
Parents do that all the time.
Yes, but it's madness.
I agree.
But it's only madness because it doesn't work on someone like me, but it would work on you. That's what's interesting. That was like the insight is that's so meaningful to you in a way that it's not to me. Like I love my family. I love them so much. It's one of the first things that we bonded over. But my whole thing is I'm going to take you as you are. Back me up. Do I not say take people for who they are.
Oh yeah, all the
Like,
time.
that's my whole thing,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like, don't judge them. Empathy, compassion, love, connection, all of it. But I'm never expecting them to change. I only want them to change if they want to change, if it's going to give them something that they want. And if they come seeking advice, I will give it, but I certainly don't proselytize. I don't go out of my way. I'm not trying to get people to change. Ironically, because you would think me doing the show that I'm all about changing other people, I'm a filter. That's it. I'm looking for people who want my message, and I will, hey, I've learned a few things. If you would like to avail yourself of that knowledge as readily as I avail myself of other people's knowledge, please, by all means. But man, somehow, some way in all of that, like, because I don't do that to others, dude, trying to lay that on me would be just a losing tactic.
Yeah.